Did you know that from January 2021, TR Business magazine will be free for all to access in a digital format? The magazine will continue to be available in print at global trade events. TR Business, helping the industry grow.
My name is Charlotte Turner and I'm the editorial director for TR Business, and as is customary, I'll be co-moderating this session with my colleague Michael Barrett, who is head of CSR and events. We are constantly thinking about putting the consumer first, regardless of what webinar or event we're holding, and I think this should be at the front of mind for all travel retail stakeholders at the moment. And this is of course why TR Business and Mindset set up the TR Travel Retail Awards originally. We announced it back in 2017. The inaugural 2018 Travel Retail Awards, as many of you will remember, took place in 2018 in Singapore, and by was any measure a great success, considering this was an entirely new concept. 3 years on, and TR Business and Mindset are extremely proud of what we and those involved have achieved through the initiative, and believe the positive feedback received by all the winners and finalists so far has been so thoroughly deserved. This year, due to unforeseen circumstances, we moved the Travel Retail Awards, the 2020 edition, into the virtual realm and streamed the ceremony live through TR Marketplace and trbusiness.com. And so far, we have received 7,279 views of the awards ceremony, combining those who streamed it live, as well as those who used our video on demand service, either on YouTube or TR Marketplace. Now, in traditional fashion, Mindset's research accounted for 70% of the total scores, with blogger and blogger feedback making up the remaining 30%. If you'd like to know more about the step-by-step procedures in the judging process, please see our dedicated awards website, travelretailawards.com. I'd like to obviously thank our amazing sponsors for supporting us through this very difficult year. I think we have had a tremendous result from the virtual ceremony. I'm really excited by the results that we received and all the positive feedback that we also received this year, especially our headline sponsor, Changi Airport. I know that all of you realise how important it is for the consumer voice to be heard. Before I pass on to Michael for some housekeeping and some notes about our charity, I'd also like to draw your attention to TR Business's Save Tax-Free petition. For those of you who aren't already aware of it, TR Business is calling on travel retail stakeholders and consumers across the UK to back a campaign to reverse the government's decision to axe tax-free sales at UK airports on all goods aside from alcohol and tobacco. A petition lodged and accepted on the UK government and Parliament website also urges ministers to retain the VAT retail export scheme after it was announced that tax-free shopping for international visitors in UK shops would end in January 2021. We're urging all British citizens and UK residents to sign this petition. I do believe that means that British citizens living overseas also fit into this category. So once signed, or if you've already signed, please share the petition with your colleagues and your friends and on all social media channels. We obviously believe very passionately and strongly in this campaign, and really urge everyone that can sign this to do so, and just share the message about it for those that cannot sign it themselves. I would like to now pass on to Michael for some details about the charity that we supported this year. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Charlotte. Yes, so I'm Michael Barrett, head of CSR, Corporate Social Responsibility and Events at TR Business. And wearing the CSR and the events hat, I'd like to, first of all, thank all of you who purchased tickets and all of the sponsors who provided the very generous donations in terms of the raffle prizes. That helped us raise over $2,600 in the charity raffle that took place during the Travel Retail Awards. And those funds have been raised for the Foundation for Environmental Education, which will be donated to a project and allocated to a project in New Delhi in India, in educating children in New Delhi about environmental awareness, and in particular how not to litter. And anybody who's been in India or other parts of South Asia and Southeast Asia know that it's a huge problem there, and education is of course the way forward. So thank you to all those who took part in that. It's a fantastic cause. one proposed by Mars Wrigley, one of our platinum sponsors for the Travel Retail Awards. And while on the subject of charity donations, it's also worth noting that two of our panelists here are involved in this next aspect I want to talk about. Firstly, Distel, who sponsored the charity donation for the winner of the Best Green Initiative at an Airport Award. And of course, as you'll have read and heard about or watched during the Travel Retail Awards ceremony, that was won by Budapest Airport for their eco-friendly shopping bags. So it's great to see, and that there was a $5,000 donation going to the chosen charity by Budapest International Airport. So thank you to Distel for that, and congratulations to Budapest for winning that award. And we'll be hearing more about that a little bit later on from Nicolette Huztak, who's on this panel today. As you know, having watched the travel retail marketplace events, the webinars, sustainability was a major theme during that week, generating lots of interest with the TRSF, the Travel Retail Sustainability Forum session, which Rachel from Distel also took part in. So I'd like to segue briefly across to our next theme. As you'll have read about, and you can see on the screen there, the Travel Retail Sustainability Week, the brand new environmental event on sustainability for travel retail, will take place, that we announced recently, at the end of April, from the 19th to the 23rd of April. So please mark your diaries now for that week. It's going to be a great event, the inaugural, the very first sustainability event for travel retail. And we look forward to welcoming lots of you from the industry and outside the industry, including sustainability service providers, NGOs in the sustainability field, and all of you working on sustainability in the field as well during that event. There'll be lots we'll be talking about in the next few weeks on that. So we look forward to sharing more and talking more about it in the near future. And that week also coincides with World Earth Day. So it's a very opportune moment to be having a sustainability event. Very briefly, before I pass back to Charlotte, who's going to ask our speakers to introduce themselves, a quick note about logistics, housekeeping. During this webinar, you can, of course, use the Q&A panel to put your questions to our speakers. Those can be asked anonymously or nominatively as you wish. Nobody else can see those questions apart from us, so we will be discreet in putting those to our speakers. So please do use that function, and we look forward to your questions. There will be a couple of polls coming up as well, so we'll get you to engage with us during the session too. Thanks very much. I'll now hand back to Charlotte to introduce our speakers.
Thanks very much, Michael. As Michael said, I'd now like to invite all our speakers to show themselves on camera. Thanks very much, everybody. Nice to see you this morning or this afternoon or this evening, wherever you might be. Yes, as I said, I'd like to start with Clara, if you could introduce yourself and tell our attendees what you do at Mindset.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Charlotte, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone. It's a pleasure to be back here for this session of the TR Connect webinars. So my name is Clara, and I am the Travel Retail Research Director at Mindset. So this means that I handle the team who does research with travelers, and more specifically to understand how do they behave when they're at the airport, what role does shopping play in their airport experience, and how can brands, but also airports and retailers work towards making it more appealing, ensuring footfall conversion, and so keeps on growing when travelers are at the airport. And today I'm here to share some insights and some trends that we've been finding behind the data that we've collected for the TRB Awards in these past 3 years. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks a lot, and looking forward to the discussion.
Thanks, Clara. Can I move on to Rachel next, please?
Hi, I'm Rachel Hawes. I work for Distel International. I head up our marketing for the whole of the GTR channel. So my role is to sort of devise our strategy, look at consumer insights, take those insights and turn them into kind of real and live plans within the retail environment. And I'm really grateful to be part of today's session.
Thank you, Rachel, and welcome back to our sessions, as well as Clara actually as well. Christine, you're next on my little group of windows, so I'll come to you.
Hi there, I'm Christine Keeling. I am the founder and managing director of Long Haul Spa, and really excited to be here. I'm super grateful to have been included, and to have been included because we won the Travel Retail Award, which was pretty gobsmacking, I have to say. You know, Charlotte, of those 7,257 views that you've had of the awards, I'm pretty sure 5,000 of them were my family in Canada and New Zealand. Just saying. But anyways, thanks for having me.
Thank you to your friends and family as well. Next, Adrian, could you do the same, please?
Hi, Charlotte. Yes, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Adrian Pittaway, head of retail at Mse Cruises. We're really delighted to be part of this session today, the first time that a cruise line or the cruise industry has been part of the Travel Retail Awards. So very privileged to represent our industry here today, and looking forward to sharing some ideas and some insights with you all.
Thank you, Adrian. I'm not sure if Nicolette is here at the moment with us. Nicolette, if you are, then if you could please turn your camera on. Oh, perfect.
Sure.
Thank you very much. And if you could introduce yourselves to our attendees.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
We've lost you. Oh, there you go. You're back a bit again, I think.
Yeah. So can you hear me now? Okay. So I'm Nicolette Huszák from Budapest Airport. I'm the senior retail marketing manager. I'm leading the retail marketing team for a year because before that I was responsible for airline marketing. There are lots of connections. I'm very proud, and thank you for everybody who actually the consumers for giving us this award. And thank you for having me today in this webinar.
Thank you, Nicolette. Now, without further ado, I'd like to ask Clara to kick off her presentation, and during which the rest of us can turn off our cameras. So thanks. See you shortly after this, the rest of the panel.
Okay, perfect. Thank you again, Charlotte. And so let's get started and look at some data. So as I guess most of you know, the Travel Retail Awards are based on a votation made by shoppers. So this means that for the last 3 years, we've been collecting a lot of very interesting data, which we've used to compute the scores that define which products were winning. But there was a lot more to it. So we decided it would be really interesting to start digging into the data and looking for trends. So first of all, let's look at the product awards. So again, as many of you might know, we had for each of the products that we tested, there was an overall appeal score, but then there were many other indicators that travelers had to rate for each of the products. And we found that when we consider all categories together, 2 of these indicators were actually standing out. First of all, suitability to duty-free shopping, and second of all, the quality of the products obtained the highest score overall. On the other hand, there's some indicators that require more improvements because overall they're showing the lowest scores, which are value for money and innovativeness and novelty. But the good news is that even though value for money is obtaining currently the lowest scores compared to the other indicators, what we're seeing is that this figure has been increasing year after year. So this is a very encouraging sign because we know from other research that we've conducted at Mindset that value for money is actually a very important purchase driver. It's a key part of the decision-making process. In fact, as you can see here, 33% of travel retail buyers mention value for money as a purchase driver. So it's very encouraging to see that despite this being the indicator where the performance of the products is the weakest, there is definitely a positive trend, and this is improving year after year in these awards. The other thing we wanted to understand is what is the impact of each of the different indicators that we tested on the general appeal of the products, and how does this compare to how products are performing on this. So on this chart here, what you see on the vertical axis is the score. So the highest the product, the more positive the score. And then on the horizontal axis, you see the impact on general appeal. So here again, what we see is that this part here in pink is really where most improvements are needed, because it's indicators for which the score is currently lower than for others, Yet the impact on general appeal is very high. So we see it's the case for uniqueness, innovativeness, novelty, and value for money. So highly impactful indicators, which at the moment have a below average score. On the other hand, we see that factors such as experience, suitability to duty-free shopping, and quality have very high scores overall. So then, well, as you know, the Travel Retail Awards were based on global scores, so based on the ratings of travelers from all around the world. So we were obviously interested in understanding how do these scores vary across the different regions of the world. So we found one very interesting trend is that across all categories, Europeans tend to be the most demanding with all the products tested. It's harder to get a very positive rating out of them, which we think is probably related to a lower engagement with the travel retail channel and its products. So we know since many years that travelers from the most mature markets are actually harder to convince. And we see it also reflected in their below average duty-free footfall, conversion, and purchase rates. So as you can see, we have 41% of European passengers who visit the duty-free stores, which is much lower, for example, compared to 52% in Asia Pacific or 46% in Africa and Middle East. And again, out of all European passengers, 23% buy in duty-free stores versus 41% in Asia Pacific and 38% in Africa and Middle East. So very clearly, the trends that we see in our travel retail awards, they're actually also reflected in travel retail as a whole. Then we also dug a bit deeper to start looking at difference amongst demographic groups. And we found an interesting trend is that millennials have particularly high expectations when it comes to the uniqueness and the innovativeness of the products. They actually tend to give a lower score on these two aspects versus older travelers. However, this is a very important topic because we know, again, from previous research we've conducted at Mindset, that products which are truly unique to the travel retail channel are key to attract this demographic to the store and to make travel retail an appealing option versus online or versus domestic stores. In fact, if you look at the pink chart here on the side, we see that there's a very clear correlation between age and the likelihood to purchase products which travelers consider to be unique. 58% of Generation Z travelers do that, 59% of millennials, and then as we go forward in age, we see this percentage drops. So it's only 40% amongst middle age and 27% amongst senior travelers. So very clearly, this is a key expectation amongst the younger travelers. Then we're going to also talk obviously about a very important demographic, which are the Chinese travelers. And here we found that they particularly value the apparent quality of the products, and it's very strongly linked to the overall appeal of the products. So, well, I don't think I need to explain to anyone the importance of Chinese for our industry. Just maybe a figure to put things into perspective. We know that Chinese duty-free buyers, when they buy in duty-free, spend on average 73% more versus global buyers. So of course, this makes it very clear why it's so important to convince them to shop for your products. And the Travel Retail Awards data shows that providing guarantees of the high quality and authenticity of the products will go a long way in convincing them of this. Now, let's look a bit more into details about the different categories, because so far we were talking about all categories together. So we see that there's three categories that stand out in terms of average scores. First of all, makeup, then spirits, and then fragrance are the categories where the scores are the highest. On the contrary, we see that products in fashion and accessories, wine, and children products, such as toys, for example, obtain the lowest evaluation. So these are the products that are the least positively perceived by travelers overall. Then if we look a bit more in details at the categories versus the different indicators, we see first of all which are the three top scoring product categories overall. So for uniqueness, we see that alcohol, makeup, and electronics are the best scoring. Then for quality, we have makeup, perfumes, and sunglasses. For value for money, we have makeup, jewelry, watches, and alcohol. For innovativeness and novelty, again, we find alcohol, makeup, and electronics. Then suitability to duty-free and airport shopping, we have perfumes, makeup, and then travel accessories. And finally, the experience with the product, which was rated by the bloggers only, so not by the travelers, because only the bloggers had the actual products in their hands. We find that here the highest scores are obtained by makeup, travel accessories, and perfumes. So as you can see behind these global aggregated data, when we dig a little bit deeper, we see that very clearly different categories have different strengths. But for example, we do see makeup coming up amongst the three across the board of all the different indicators that we tested. So a very strong performance there. Similarly, we again see alcohol coming up quite frequently. Now let's look at the other hand of the scale, which are the categories which would require the most improvement according to travelers. So here, as you can see, we see quite often fashion and accessories, as I mentioned it. Before, we also have in quite many cases wine as one of the top three categories which would require the most improvement, toys and children products, and finally confectionery. So again, the weaknesses of each category can be very different. A category can perform quite well for uniqueness, but value for money can be challenging and so on. So we really recommend each of the brands to really look in details at the scores they obtain to really understand what are the demographics with whom they should be making more of an effort to appeal to them, but also what are the different features of their products which appeal more or less to different types of travelers. Then if we take this as a whole and just to summarize, we see that overall the three highest average scores are the experience that bloggers had with makeup products and the suitability to duty-free shopping of both perfumes and makeup. And on the other hand, we see that the value for money of fashion and accessories, but also the value for money of toys, as well as the innovativeness and novelty of wine products are perceived as the weakest elements according to travelers. So now let's move on to the other awards. So of course, this year was quite exciting because we used to have product awards and airport awards for already 2 years. And then this year we added these new awards, the cruises and the green initiative. So it was particularly interesting to see what travelers thought about these. So let's start just with airports, first of all. So we found that in general, airports in the Middle East have the highest average scores across all the different indicators that we tested. And particularly the shopping environment was really high for airports in this region. And in fact, again, this is reflected in previous research that we've done when we asked travelers to tell us how satisfied they were with their shopping experience in other research that we've conducted in the past. Indeed, we see that airports in the Middle East tend to overperform versus the global. So for example, on a scale from 1 to 5, the satisfaction with the shopping experience is 4.0 on average in the Middle East versus 3.8 globally. Then other very important elements of the airport award were the travel friendliness and the sense of place. And here in this case, the best performing airports were actually airports in Asia Pacific, which is where travelers were the most satisfied. And again, this is a very important point because according to research that we've done, sense of place is highly important in attracting travelers globally and especially in Asia Pacific airports. And in fact, we know that 30% of non-visitors, so travelers who go to the airport but don't visit any shop, say that they didn't visit and they didn't want to buy anything because the shop was really lacking a local experience. So they didn't want to go to a store that was too standard or just too international, the same they could have found anywhere. So therefore, local touch is a key opportunity to drive footfall. Then let's now move on to the cruise industry. So as I said before, this was the first time we conducted the cruise awards. And we found an interesting trend is that the retail environment on board cruise ships tend to appeal the most to senior travelers and to males. So this is, of course, great news because traditionally these are categories that are a bit harder to attract to retail environment. But on the other hand, it also highlights the challenge to make shopping on cruises more appealing to categories such as millennials and females, whom are generally quite enthusiastic shoppers. And before I finish, let's talk about the last award, which is the Green Initiative Award. So what we found is there's an overwhelming support of these initiatives by travelers. In fact, the majority of them were very positively perceived by travelers. So, of course, there was a winner, but it was actually a very close race because 85% of the initiatives we tested obtained an average score of 8 out of 10 or higher. So this is really an outstanding performance by all the initiatives. So it really shows the enthusiasm and the high expectations that travelers have for these initiatives. And interestingly, we saw quite a consistent trend that female travelers, but also leisure travelers and millennials were the most positive in how they ranked and how they rated these sustainable initiatives. So very definitely strong supporters of these initiatives. So please let me know if you have any questions about the data. I would be happy to answer them. And I look forward to hear about all of this from the winners of the different awards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clara. Some really, obviously, as always, some very interesting insights, with a different angle this time than perhaps when you were presenting during TR Marketplace for the Knowledge and Insights webinars. But yeah, just pulling out some of the things you said, makeup and perfume products appearing to do extremely well over other product categories. And moving on to the airport section, Middle East having the highest average scores across all indicators, scoring particularly high for the shopping environment. All sort of very interesting things we can pull on during this webinar. I did have one question from the audience about the makeup category and whether that includes skincare when you were talking through those insights.
No, so actually skincare was also tested, but as a standalone category. So we had, for beauty, we had perfumes, skincare and makeup separately.
Thanks for clarifying that. If I could now invite all the speakers back on camera, that would be excellent. Hello again, everybody. Thank you, everybody. I'd like to start with Nicolette. Actually, I'd like to put a question to yourself. Obviously, there was a lot of insights there to digest, but after Clara's presentation, can I gauge your sort of reaction from those insights, and also the ones that were provided, of course, in your bespoke feedback from Mindset, you know, with your own research among shoppers on board, and what new elements have these insights provided to you?
Thank you. First of all, I would like to show you the reward. Thank you so much. It's very nice. We really like it. We will find a perfect place for that. Back to the researches. Especially and personally, I'm really grateful for all the researches what Mindset and actually UTR Business provided in the last couple of months. Because when the whole pandemic situation started, actually we didn't have anything what we can check and from which we can gain some more insights and information. So at that time, in April and May, when we received these newsletters and all the other information, it was very, very useful for me personally to think about a new strategy or new ideas or anything which would relate to the new era. And that time we actually stopped all the researches. So that's the other thing why it's so important for us. In general, from the previous experience, definitely we realized that leisure and female passengers are those who would interested more shopping and who are more open for new initiatives, new experiences. They are really like to try new things. So definitely I have to put an effect that it's absolutely right that they are our passengers who are really involved in this initiative.
Thanks, Nicolette. And can I ask the same question of Adrian, actually? You know, what's your reaction to, obviously, Clara's insights she's just presented here, but also the feedback that you've received prior?
Yeah, I thank you very much to Mindset. Thank you to TR Business for firstly including the cruise channel into the awards. It's the first time I think that the cruise sector has been included in such a survey. And I don't think we've ever seen any sort of consumer-driven feedback that's actually compared cruise lines in retail against one another. So I think this is actually a first industry moment for us and a lot of our peers. You know, honestly, when I saw the shortlist and we were up against, you know, really great cruise lines like Carnival, like Celebrity, like Dream, Norwegian, you know, I knew it was going to be very tough for us. So for us to win was pretty gobsmacking, to take Christine's comment from earlier on. You know, it was really a fantastic achievement for both the team and also all our shipboard colleagues on board who really drive service as the core of their principle. I think in terms of the feedback offered, you know, it shows to us that service on cruise ships is very important. You know, the overall mean score was high, and obviously the feedback that we got was also very high. So, you know, I think it validates a lot of what we see as important, what we drive as being important, and the information received from Mindset, yeah, absolutely, it sort of confirms a lot of what we think already, because we already sort of survey all our guests when they leave the ship anyway. But it's great to see it alongside our peers, which is the first time that we've seen that. So overall, you know, really, really useful.
Great, thanks for your feedback just now, Adrian, and you know, you're all very humble and modest in saying how gobsmacked you are about winning these awards, but obviously you're doing something right, and the consumer is noticing that. So that's fantastic news for you guys. And now, Christine, actually, I'd like to come to you for your thoughts, please.
Yeah, so thanks very much for that great presentation, Clara. That's really fantastic, and it really dovetails nicely with the information that you provided to us earlier. Echoing what Adrian had to say, you know, we were in a really broad field of a dozen competitors, and, you know, the likes of L'Oreal and Rituals and Moroccan Oil, and some of them who are my personal heroes. And so to have come out as a winner in that field was really shocking. And this is our first year in travel retail. And so we don't have a run rate or a ramp of history or research or any of these sorts of things. So every piece of information that we've received has been like a gold nugget. And so when I listen to Clara speak and get that information, and then the information that we received on the feedback from our products was really, really educational for us. And so some of it was very surprising. It was not what we were expecting to see at all in terms of some of the geographies or demographics or things like that. And so it's caused us to actually rethink some of the things that we're doing and refocus on different areas. And so it's been a fascinating process. And yeah, the research that that Mindset has done has been a huge value to us from that perspective, and what they presented tonight. So thank you for that.
Certainly, I think we know, particularly at this point in time, knowledge and data is power, and also currency, actually, in a way. So as Christine was just saying there, you know, as a relatively new business in travel retail, these things are just like gold dust. Rachel, I'd like to come to you now as well for your feedback. Thanks.
I mean, I think I've mentioned this before, but my sort of GTR experience is relatively small. I've been in the channel for a year, and all my marketing experience, my last 20 odd years, has been in domestic markets where we are data rich. We know our consumers inside out. So coming into GTR and actually understanding the consumer, but within that environment, is actually really important. And I think the data that's in here allows us to kind of join the consumer that we know within our brand portfolio, and how they behave in a domestic market, but then how they change and what they expect in a retail environment. And that's really important, connecting those dots and really trying to understand the consumer journey through the airport and what their expectations are. So for me, and actually I think if anything positive has come out of, you know, this, should we call it the downtime, is that as a marketeer, I've had a lot more time to actually look at the data and analyze this data and try and understand what we should be doing going forward. And it's giving us some key insights in terms of you know, when things get back to some level of normality, what we should be actually dialing up as a company. And I think it's fair to say some of these learnings will change some of our strategy, because it's what we were doing before actually wasn't tapping into what the consumer wanted or expected. So yeah, we are, this data is really insightful, and I think the more you use it, the more you'll be able to hone your strategy within the retail environment, within GTR in the future, to actually maximize your brand. I think it's so useful. I think it's more about making the time to actually understand it and then relate that back to your strategy.
Indeed, and a couple of you have touched on this already, but actually making changes, it does take time and a lot of effort. It's always very, you know, important to obviously retrieve the data and look through it, but to actually make actions on that data is key. And I think a lot of this industry, many people unfortunately perhaps don't take advantage of those opportunities. But there was a fantastic case study from previous awards where there was a particular brand that had some feedback. I think they were a finalist, and they took that feedback on board, and then they became a winner in another in a future award. So I mean, that's obviously fantastic outcome for them, and obviously just you know, validates the whole process of the Travel Retail Awards. I now want to come on to sort of the effect and the impact of the award and the accolade itself, because as we know, especially during a time such as this where everyone is feeling extremely downtrodden and anxious and you know, frustrated that they can't be doing more, you know, an award or recognition, any award or recognition is fantastic, but especially one such as this is, I think, has been really valued. The highlight of it has been noted by more people, in my opinion, this year than perhaps in previous years. I'd like to come back to Nicolette actually on that, and I'd just ask what the team's reaction has been to winning the first ever Consumer Vote Award for the Best Green Initiative. You know, what was your team's reaction, and what sort of you know, feedback did you get from them?
Thank you, Charlotte. Let me back to a couple of years because the eco-friendly shopping bag, this was the award-winning idea from our side, started maybe 3 years ago. So that time I wasn't part of the team, but they thought that it will be a good initiative for the passengers, for our partners, because we are providing it for free to our shops who would like to have it. And also finally we had a common agreement with the airlines that we can use it as a one bag. We use it as a one bag policy, so all the passengers who use this bag, then they can take it on board free of charge. So when they started it, we didn't think that this will, and sustainability will have a big focus. So we were really surprised because of the launch of this new green initiative. And the other thing that last year when we had a new CEO, one of the key pillars was the sustainability. So that time we found out that, okay, the eco-friendly shopping bag and lots of other initiatives at the airport can have a very significant impact later on. And when we sent the submission to you, we were so excited. We were really looking forward to the conference, and we were really waiting to meet in person and to see who will be the winner. And then lots of things changed. And when I registered for the webinar, the TR Marketplace, I was so excited. And when we realized that we were the winner, I cannot tell you what was the reaction and what we felt, because in the last couple of months we heard lots of bad news, very tough periods, and then at the end of September just came the news. So everybody, the team, the management was very happy, and we are very proud. And yeah, I would like to thank again for all the customers and everybody who took part in it.
Thanks for that, Nicolette. And actually I wanted to bring Clara back into the conversation if I can. You actually mentioned that value for money perception has been increasing over the years. Other than that, what are the sort of strongest trends you've noticed over the past 3 years that we've been doing this this awards together? You know, what other strong trends have you noticed?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think even without looking at the data, but just the entries that we've received, we've noticed that there were more and more products that we were receiving to participate in the awards, which were actually travel retail exclusives. And when we look at the data, we see this links back nicely to the results we've had, because in fact, we have more and more entries of products which are exclusive to travel retail. And at the same time, we've seen the suitability to duty-free shopping and innovativeness and novelty have been increasing. So it goes hand in hand. I think brands are realizing more and more the high expectations that travelers have around that. And at the same time, travelers are perceiving this more and more positively. So we strongly believe that this is actually one of the big conversion drivers that we can expect. And now in this COVID context and thinking of when travel will resume at some more normal levels, let's say, it will be one of the key factors to attract travelers back to the store, to really convey that strong message that there is a unique value proposition to be found in travel retail stores, whether it may be through more traditionally value for money, but also from that uniqueness and that exclusivity of products.
Adrian, I'm sure you'll probably concur with Clara's insight there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, you know, uniqueness in our channel is highly important. You know, why would you buy items from a piece of metal floating in the sea? You know, that's always the sort of the reality of what we're trying to do on cruise ships. And, you know, what we try to do is focus on, you know, environment, on service, and on experience as the core point of it. You know, some of the points that Clara sort of touched on there, particularly in respect to sort of categories like fashion accessories. For me, you know, it's a category that we really focused on. It's a category that we really believe that the sort of the service element is absolutely one of the most criticality to the way that people will want to buy it and want to enjoy it. You know, we are a little bit unique in travel retail that we are an absolute buy now, wear now, use now business. So therefore the immediacy of the products and the sort of the experience that we're trying to show to people is really important. So I think that, you know, in the data, in the information that we see there, you know, the trends show us some really good points, and they show to us also the areas that we have to keep on focusing on, the sort of the areas that are going to be more important and continue to be more important in the years ahead.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I had myself on mute. I think, you know, you mentioned, Adrian, that your team and yourself, you know, really valued, you know, this award and what it means, particularly because it's been voted for by consumers. Now, how does, obviously this awards differs very much in regards to others, in the fact that it does obviously take the consumer's vote is the heart of the process. Now, in terms of, I wouldn't like you to compare and contrast with other awards out there, but, you know, how important is it that this is voted for by consumers as opposed to industry peers? I'm sure you'll give you know, advantages and disadvantages for both.
I love the fact it's voted for by our guests, you know, and these are MSC guests that have been with us. They obviously valued, they had a good cruise, and then you know, to actually sort of compare us to our peers, as I said before, is something that's, you know, it's given us a huge amount of pride. And I think across the team, you know, as I say, we really honestly didn't expect to win it, and to actually see that, and when we saw, you know, just how high our score was compared to the cruise line average, you know, we came at 8.6 compared to an average of 8.2 in our industry. You know, we sort of stand, we can stand tall and be very proud of what we've achieved. And I think one of the things I would say is, you know, it's an award that we shared and we communicated to all of our shipboard teams around the world. You know, they're sadly at home at the moment, not able to embark. And the reaction was fantastically positive. You know, they were very, very proud of what they've achieved, because the guests, the people that they served, were the people that voted for it. So I think, you know, that is something completely unique and something we've never had the opportunity to be part of before. So you know, for us, it's something very different and something great.
And you touched on how you've already communicated, actually, and we've seen what you've obviously put on LinkedIn. And how else do you plan to communicate the award win to the rest of the industry and consumers as well, because as we know, you know, the important part from this point onwards is to actually tell people, you know, how amazing the offer is with MSC Cruises.
Yeah, it's something that we're working on at the moment, and something I think with our marketing channel, you know, so advertising or talking about retailing on cruise ships is always quite a complicated thing, because it's not a high reason why people go cruising. But in certain markets, in certain areas such as Brazil or China, where shopping is an important element of the reason why you go cruising, then absolutely it's something that we're going to be talking about and communicating strongly.
Mm-hmm. And Christine, from a brand perspective, how will you be communicating your success in Travel Retail Awards to your audience?
Yeah, so I mean, we've got you know, sort of two audiences. We've got the B2B audience, the travel retail buyers, and then we've got the consumers. And so you know, we've been out on our socials with all of these sorts of things, but I'm sure that the marketing team and PR team will have some campaigns coming up in the near future that will be based around this and utilizing the data that we've received from Mindset to help us target those marketing campaigns at the consumers that were sort of in that higher side of the scoring, the ones that really love the product the most, and then looking at how we can adapt it to appeal to the areas where we didn't get the scores that we thought we would have. So yeah, it's a fascinating process for sure to be able to now take this and turn it into marketing campaigns in real time.
Nicolette, I see that you're nodding your head. Of course, you know, the airports, you know, and the retailers, it's really important, obviously, for you guys to be very much involved in this process in promoting not just obviously yourselves as award winners, which is amazing, but also the fact that you have these award-winning products within your stores. And that's, you know, what we obviously want to emphasize throughout this process, is that, you know, we can really make a difference, genuinely make a difference, and help the industry grow if we leverage on awards and recognition such as this, which make consumers, as they pass through the store, realize that their fellow consumers really believe that this product is worth buying.
Yeah, definitely agree, and I would like to join to Christine, because when she was talking about the customers and of course the business partners, absolutely there are two ways how we can communicate it. As an airport, what our retail partners promote and how they promote and what communicate, you know, we don't really have a big impact, so they can decide what and how they would like to showcase to the customers. So we as an airport can use our digital sites, can use our social media, can use our PR actions, and of course we can create awareness videos, but we can showcase also on our Facebook channels and other social media channels. So our responsibility, I think, to first start or continue the education of the customers, convey the message, how important is this topic, besides showcase them that, yes, we with this eco-friendly shopping bag, we are on the way, we have already done this and that and that, and we are planning this and that and that, and after in the meantime we can promote it on different channels. So yes, this is I think this is our responsibility to at some point show it to the in the social media channels and on site when we have the passengers, because awareness is important throughout the social channels and the newsletters and other channels and platforms what we have. And when we have the passenger right on that place at the airport, then there is the place where we have to communicate it directly.
Thanks, Nicolette. Michael, I don't know if you've got some questions from the audience that you want to introduce at this point. I have a couple as well, I can see.
Yeah, we've got one coming, a couple coming actually from Paul Murray from MMI. First one for Rachel, since you're from the same category, with the wine category scoring the lowest and requiring the most improvement. How, as a wine producer, do you think we can improve uniqueness, innovation, and quality? Although he doesn't agree with the quality aspect. So over to you, Rachel.
Good question. I think one of the things that the wine category suffers from is fragmentation. So having worked across spirits and well, across all drinks categories, I think one of the challenges the wine faces within the airport environment is the fact that there's so much choice. And I think the consumer finds that slightly overwhelming. And I think there's a merit in the first part in actually trying to make that less confusing for the consumer, because I think it's just you are in a controlled time period, so you haven't got a finite amount of time to browse a category, and without clear signposting, I think that's where consumers then disengage. So I think something like this, if we've got something that is voted for by consumers, and if we can get to the point where wines could win some of these categories, you could use this as a signposting. So it's a very simple, I've been voted for by consumers. But I think the first stage of the wine category, in my opinion, is kind of almost simplifying it. It's almost got too much choice for consumers at that kind of shop face. And I think that there's a sort of a need to simplify the wine category in terms of choice. Now, I say that actually through the challenges we've had with COVID, what you are seeing by the retailers is actually a rationalisation of range, and that goes across all the drinks categories. And I think you'll see that in the wine category, and it'd be interesting to see if that then helps consumers make more choices, more engaged with the wine category at the point of purchase. Because I believe as a marketeer, one of the challenges is the kind of fragmentation. There's almost too much choice. And I think if you can narrow that down, then you can then deal with the next challenge within the category.
I think also with well, you mentioned COVID, the fact that COVID might reduce the number of tastings that go on. There's debate about whether that's logical or not. It's firstly tastings an opportunity to create greater engagement in the post-COVID environment, and secondly, with digital, you talk about the range and being faced with too much choice. We talked in the travel retail marketplace and in the digital session about QR codes and the power, the potential through QR codes to actually create more of a story around the winemaking. Do you not think there's sort of opportunities there as well?
I actually think what I'm learning in my own field with our own range is that actually you need to influence the decision making before they've even got to the airport. So I think there's, one of the areas that we're working at Distell on actually our whiskey portfolio at the moment is actually looking at the journey prior to the airport. So when they make their decisions about their travel, where they're going, why they're going, where they're going, because ultimately when you get into that retail environment, it is overwhelming. We don't see it as overwhelming because it's what we know when we spend our lives going through airports. So it's a very comfortable space for most people in this channel. But for a consumer, it's very overwhelming. So if you can influence the consumer prior to getting to that airport environment, you've already sort of honed in their decision making for them without them not necessarily realizing. So we're looking at the moment, for example, geo-targeting. So actually looking at consumers that we know who've been to our distilleries and then kind of homing that down and saying and tracking them through the travel retail environment. So yes, I think digital has a role to play, but what you can't do is blanket digital marketing. That doesn't work, because you need to actually understand the consumer journey, and are they going to the airport, and if so, even which airport are they going to, and actually and kind of influence them before they've even got there. So yes, agree, digital has a role to play, but I think it's the how part that's key. And as I said, blanket digital marketing won't do any favors for GTR at all. It's got to be quite targeted, and geo-targeting is probably the best way to do that. And then in terms of tasting, agree 100%. Most consumers will convert once they've tasted something, because you basically take out the risk for them. If they have never tried a product before, and particularly in wine, because, you know, if you understand consumer knowledge wine level at a mass market level, it's actually very low. And, you know, some consumers might know one or two varietals. They won't know, they know what they like and they know what they don't like, but they don't actually know what brand they're looking for or what particular varietal. They know what they like. So yes, tasting is key, particularly on wine, because it's so fragmented. It's just, I guess it's at the moment it's the how part with the challenges with COVID, but it's something we're definitely going to roll out. All our plans going back into normal are very much focused on our brand ambassadors in the airport environment and actually tasting, because we know that actually drives the funnel conversion from browsing the shop floor to actually getting them to purchase a product. So yes, Michael, tasting is key, and particularly for wines, because as I said, most consumers, when you look at consumer data, their knowledge of wine is actually really, really low. So you need to guide them on that journey to actually get them to purchase. So yes.
Thanks, Rachel. You'll be happy to know that Paul agrees with you on your answer there, that there is too much. For some wines are far too large and make it difficult for the consumer to shop. Staying on wines, a question also from Paul to you, Nicolette. As an airport operator, how do you think you can assist with offering a platform for the wine category, which isn't necessarily going to be driving your largest gross profit? Or is it simply not of importance to airports and airport shop operators? Would you like to take?
Yes, the key thing, tasting is a key thing, definitely. We have a very close cooperation with our duty-free shop, Heinemann, and we usually organize these Trinity promotions. And especially when we have a promotion, this kind of promotion, we usually use tasting as an action. And absolutely agree with Rachel that somehow we need to keep this action, this element in the promotion part, because otherwise I suppose I'm not a duty-free expert, and I can say it from on behalf of the airport. But what I see that if we cannot showcase the product, if they cannot taste the wines, and the other thing, the promoters. If the promoters do not know what is that wine is about, what are their key elements, what are the most important information about that specific wine, I'm not sure if it can work. So yeah, I absolutely agree with Rachel that the tasting is one of the key elements to show the product.
Okay, thanks.
And yeah, sorry, Michael, just one more. Yeah, and we would like to within the Trinity promotions, and not just within the Trinity promotions, but on other way, if there's any other new idea, then we provide and support the retail partners to and help them as much as we can.
Great, thanks for that, Nicolette. Now I'm going to change gears slightly, as you know, this research from the Travel Retail Awards Mindset conducted earlier in the year, where after the submissions were made for the Travel Retail Awards, the nominations, they've been doing lots of research throughout this year as well, prior to and then in the midst of the COVID pandemic. So then there's been lockdowns, restrictions being lifted and back down into lockdown. So many consumers won't have traveled for many, many months. And some of those shopper insights, some of that shopper behavior may well have changed quite a lot. So what we want to do now is just gauge the audience's opinion on the importance of now post-COVID or mid-COVID consumer insights. So we're going to launch a poll. The first question being, consumer insights are vital to gauge shopper behavior at all times. Do you think it is especially important to understand how behavior has shifted as a result of the pandemic? So you should see that poll coming up on the screen now. If you can answer yes or no to that question, and we'll leave it open for a few seconds while you press the button. Unfortunately, speakers, you can't answer this. I don't think you have the opportunity to click on the screen there, I'm afraid. So we've got 30% of the votes, and the counting is actually a lot quicker than the US presidential elections, you'll be very pleased to know. So we won't be here for the next few days. We will have the results produced instantaneously, and wouldn't that be good that we can breathe all a sigh of relief and finally know whether he's in or out. And over to you, and I'll leave that to your interpretation of who you think I would like to see in the White House for the next 4 years. We've just got about 49% of the people voted so far. So if you can just carry on pressing the button for those who haven't, yes or no. And the results are fairly, yeah, we're going to have to say definitive for, unfortunately, not the same for the presidential elections. But in this particular vote, we do have a very decisive answer that 98% of you, I'm going to end the poll now, 98% of you think that yes, it is especially important to understand how behavior has shifted as a result of the pandemic. So can you see those results? No, you can't. There you can. There you go. So interesting one. Clara, your reaction to that, and perhaps some background on what you're doing at Mindset to prepare the next stage for Shopper Insights.
Yeah, I think indeed it's something I'm not very surprised to see these results, because it goes in line with the discussions we've been having with many of our clients. I think what I've found fascinating from the talks we've had with our clients is that brands really want to understand what is going on with travelers, but going much further, just understanding, very tactical things like, for example, well, what's the impact on tastings, or what's the impact on promotional activities and so on. What we're really seeing is that a lot of brands are actually rethinking the entire consumer journey. So they really want to understand what has shifted in the minds of consumers in general about how they relate to travel, but also how their personality might have changed and how can that impact how they behave at the airport. And then they're also interested in everything that might have changed with regards to touch points before the airport, and then with regards to how they behave when they get to the airport, and then inside the store. So I think what's really fascinating is that a lot of brands are really rethinking this with a holistic point of view. So really taking the opportunity of maybe things being a bit more slow now, but to look at the future and maybe redesign their offer with the customer at the center of their worries of how they see things. And yeah, I think that's great news, because we don't see any branches saying, well, we're just going to try to push things exactly in the same way as we used to in the past. So that I think all of the industry players really understand that there needs to be an adjustment, and that adjustment needs to start with understanding deeply how people have changed after this crazy 2020 year we've had.
Thank you, Clara. Okay, before I hand back to Charlotte, I just want to put some more questions from the audience as well. I want to share this quote from Diageo, who were unable to join us for this session, but also one of the award winners, double whammy award winner, because they won the Best Spirits Award and the Best Overall Award for product categories. And Giselle Diamanti, the Senior Brand Manager, Global Travel at Diageo, says, "We are delighted to accept our Travel Retail Award and want to thank duty-free shoppers for their continued support. At Diageo Global Travel, we put consumers at the heart of everything we do. And that's why traveler feedback, including this great research from Mindset and TR Business, is so important to us. As always, we'll continue to innovate, providing engaging shopping experiences and unique offerings for our consumers in travel retail." That's great to know. Thank you very much, Giselle from Diageo, for that comment. Charlotte, back to you.
Thanks very much, Michael. There was one question, a couple of questions actually on tobacco and what's going on there. But due to the fact that we're asking consumers to evaluate products and that the awards are a consumer-facing initiative, we can't currently allow entries from tobacco into the Travel Retail Awards, which is why it's obviously absent from Clara's insights on this occasion. Obviously, we went into huge depth on the tobacco category within our Knowledge and Insights program within TR Marketplace, and of course in our previous TR Connect series. We're obviously exploring ways to include the tobacco category in the awards in the future, whether that be with alternative nicotine products or with traditional tobacco, or both. But this is still to be decided at the moment, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that we weren't just missing out the tobacco category, which is of course of huge importance to the industry still. Now I've clarified that, I had a question from one of my colleagues actually, Ben Webb. I'm not sure if you wanted me to say your name, but I'm going to anyway. He has a question for those that have won awards, but also indeed for finalists or anyone that entered, to be honest with you. Are there any lessons that you have learned from the data and anything that you would change to make the product or the shopping experience better for consumers? Christine, I'd like to come to you on that.
Yes, so we learned a hell of a lot from the data that we received, and there were a lot of surprises in there for us. So we are, I think I'd mentioned, sort of changing some of the targets that we have for our marketing, and also we'll be reevaluating some of the ways that we're presenting things, looking at how we can improve some of the areas that weren't tracking as well as we thought they should have been, and try and see what we can do to iterate and improve our product for those consumers, and get 100% across the board next year.
Of course. And Adrian, I had a similar question for you, obviously pertaining to the shopping environment on board.
Yeah, I think when we looked at the research, obviously probably our weakest area was with our millennial shoppers. It's one that always sort of attracts everybody as the sort of curse of travel retail. And obviously it's something that, you know, it validates what we think as well, is that we've got to look towards the next generation. We've got to look at continue innovating. We've got to look at uniqueness, which I think was one of the points that Clara put in information as things that we have to continue to innovate and develop on. So I think, you know, it confirms a lot of what we know already, but it just quantifies an opinion that as we develop our next generation of ships, you know, as we've got a number of ships coming into operation, we will continue focusing on the development to make sure that the cruise retail environment continues to evolve and become as cutting edge as possible.
Thanks for that very honest feedback on that question. And we have a couple more questions from the audience, funnily enough. One here from Claudia Gambarucci, and she's talking, funnily enough, about millennials and how they clearly have interest in new products and seeing sort of new brands being introduced into the market. Saying the question says, why do duty-free operators not take the risk to list novelty, especially in the spirits and wine category? I guess we could, I will go to you, Nicolette, for that rather maybe potentially a bit of a controversial question, but can you give us your feedback on that?
Can you? I didn't catch it. I'm not sure if I can answer it from an airport point of view.
So there is some, and indeed, Adrian, actually, you could probably come in on this as well. In terms of sort of novelty or new brands and products, there appears to be a need and want for that. But are retailers, airports, cruise ships doing enough to introduce some of these more niche new brands, such as obviously Long Haul Spa, who entered recently? Are the concessionaires, retailers, and landlords doing enough to make sure that these particular brands are on show?
Well, I can only answer for the cruise channel. Obviously, airports is a bit different. The biggest problem we have, obviously, and being honest, in the cruise channel is space. We're operating on very small footprints. We're operating in small spaces. In MSC, we have over 150 nationalities cruising with us, and therefore the brands that we have to promote and the categories that we focus on are quite broad. We have to focus on many different age groups, very different reasons why people cruise, and lots of different nationalities. So when we bring in new products or when we bring in new novelties, we look at that with the idea of, are they cross nationality? Are they cross generational? What will they do? There are ways that you can do it. There's a lot of trial and errors that can be done. We have this wonderful thing in cruise called trunk shows, where brands can come on, they can test their product with a lot of experience, or events that can see, and we can gauge consumer reaction. And generally, we see pretty immediate take up. If you talk to any of my colleagues across the cruise industry, if something hits in cruise, it hits really quickly, and we will go after it and we will chase after it. If something doesn't work, we know pretty quickly, and we will sort of give that expertise to brand partners. I receive, as I'm sure many are doing in the travel industry, many brands that think that they will be suitable, but you actually also have to trust a little bit of us inside the industry. We know what works, we know how it works, and as we keep on testing new products or new ideas, there is an equal success and failure rate, and ultimately the biggest thing for us is to keep on finding what made a new product successful, why was it that it was successful, and what can we do to sort of support that in the future. And likewise the other way, if it didn't work so well, to give that honest feedback to partners, so that they understand, if there's any changes they need to make. Is it, for us, is it pack size is too big? Is it product that doesn't quite work for guests when they're on board ships? And try and give that sort of continuous dialogue.
Would you agree that at this particular moment in time, bringing new brands into the market obviously is going to be very difficult, unfortunately, and it would be a shame, I think, for that to be not used as an excuse, because that's unfair to yourselves and airport operators and in-flight concessionaires, but it could be it could take a while, should we say, for new brands potentially to come on board after such a devastating crisis to have happened to the industry.
100%. It's a really sad situation. There are 330 cruise ships in the world. There's only 20 of them currently operating. That means there's 310 cruise ships sat with stock, not working, not sailing, not operating. And therefore, for the next period of time, whether it be 6 months, 12 months, we're not quite sure yet, we're going to have to go with the sort of the lowest risk, and we're going to have to go with the sort of the low-hanging fruit, as it were. And our immediate recovery will be based on what we know sells and what works. After that, I'd say to all brands, give the industry a little bit of a chance to breathe and recover again. We will absolutely start the development process, and we will be looking at new ideas and new products to come in there. I think first, the recovery needed in cruises is so huge and so gargantuan that we will start very much with a sort of a low risk strategy, and then gradually, as the industry starts to repair and starts to recover, then we will start to look at bringing new brands and new ideas into the sector again.
Thanks for that, Adrian. I'm sure we can give you a little bit of time, just a little bit. I'm sure. Yeah, the small suppliers and brands will permit you that, maybe. Nicolette, did you want to come in on that as well?
Yeah, just briefly, because I know that we don't have too much time. Yeah, from an airport, definitely we would like to have unique and special brands, and we absolutely rely on our partners that they can, the duty-free partners, to find the best brands and best cooperation, which can help our customers to find these novelties on the shelves as well.
Just noticing the time, actually, we should be drawing to a close shortly, but I just wanted to move on to a key theme that a couple of you have already drawn on during this webinar, and that's obviously sustainability. And we know that it's important to all stakeholders at the moment, and within the last couple of years, it's gone from some people making big noises to pretty much the whole industry now singing from the same hymn sheet, which is fantastic news, because that's what the insights tell us, that we all need to be more cognizant of the fact that consumers are demanding more sustainable practices and products. And that also relates to the sort of new brands being introduced at the moment, and I'm guessing over the next few years we'll see more of these sort of eco-conscious, eco-friendly and socially responsible brands being introduced into travel retail in response to the insight. Of course, I think we have actually another poll to do with sustainability that, Michael, if you could perhaps load for us. I think you're trying to speak, but you're on mute.
Okay, yes, coming up. So, the second poll, I'm going to launch it now and read it at the same time. Research shows that social responsibility and sustainability are values that have grown in importance for consumers since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. How do you view these values have evolved in importance for the company or brand DNA since COVID? So the first is it's higher priority than before. same as before in terms of it's always been a high priority, same as before it's not really been a priority, or lower priority than before. So we'll give you a bit more time to cast your votes on that. And I'm liking what I'm seeing in the results here. Good majority going into one particular area, but I won't give anything away.
I was just, while we wait for those votes to come in, Michael, I just wanted to say that I spoke about the Save Tax-Free petition at the very beginning of this webinar. Some of you may have missed that, but obviously it's something that, again, TR Business and indeed, all our partners and the UK travel retail industry is very focused on at the moment. So we really would like you to sign the petition. I haven't given you the link, and unfortunately I don't think I'm going to be able to do that very easily here, but what I would like to say is that we will be sending out an email to all attendees with the link in it, so you have a chance to sign that or share it via social media for all those British citizens and UK residents. So yeah, sorry, back to you for the results, Michael.
No, okay, we'll just let a few more people vote and we'll close it in a few seconds. Yeah, it's back to 1999 all over again, so we really need your support on that petition, so please do sign that. We've got a very good response so far, so it'd be great to get more of you to sign. Okay, we're closing in 3, 2, 1. Here we go, and I'll just launch those results, and you can see that a significant majority voted for higher priority than before, which is good. And also, secondly, same as before in terms of it's always been a high priority, so that's good to see. And I think we'll see more of that, as Charlotte mentioned, more sustainably friendly products, environmentally friendly products in the shops, as consumer insights are telling us that's what shoppers want and have been sensitized more since COVID. On that note, perhaps just quickly segueing across into you, Adrian, to talk about your sustainable offer in the shops on the cruise ships. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, I don't think it's necessarily related to COVID, in my opinion. I think in the last 2-3 years, generally, in terms of the consumer mood and the change, it's actually been becoming much higher on the agenda. You know, it's something in our industry that we're very acutely aware of, and something that we really sort of had to talk about strongly and really be present on. You know, it's and our decisions and our company decisions are absolutely based on a number of principles, but within shopping for sure. You know, we did 2 big things last year. One was launch our island Ocean Key, which was a completely sustainable retail environment on a desert island in the Bahamas, you know, with whole new products, a whole new range of styles, and educating guests on things like coral friendly sun care, which hadn't really been in the vogue before, or sunglasses which have been made out of recycled fishing nets, or reusable water bottles, no plastic for anybody. So that's something that we sort of started, and at the same time the launch of Mse Foundation, which has been a CSR initiative driven with retail at the heart of it, is something that we've really been passionately pushing against, and it's something that we've not stopped through COVID. So in terms of responses and support that we've been able to issue with sort of our guest support and donations, has been at the heartbeat of where we are. And not only that, I think looking at the sort of the supply chain and how we can improve that supply chain and how we can get it more sustainable across the thing. You know, we buy or make a lot of our own product with own brand, and we've done a huge amount of work with those partners to take plastic out of their supply chains, to move to sustainable materials. And I think the more we can continue that work and keep it going, irrespective of COVID or not, is something that I think is changing and transforming the way that we are promoting and talking to guests at the same time.
You removed all single-use plastics generally, from including bags and everything from all ships early last year. Was it?
Yeah, and that was, you know, it was a first in the industry. And at the end of last year, you'd have seen that we also became the first carbon neutral cruise line in the world. So, you know, big things that we've done and sort of very tangible steps that we have taken are really designed to sort of reflect what consumers want and the way that they want us to deliver it.
And are consumers giving you positive feedback?
Yeah, absolutely. We just won another award just a few days ago as the most eco-friendly cruise line in the world. So, you know, it's an important accolade, and I think that the more we do that, the more we talk about it, the more we confront the sort of the myths head on, I think the better that we can do across our industry.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Adrian. Nicolette, I can't resist putting you the question as well. Can you, I think we might have discussed this before, can you as an airport not impose these kind of benchmarks, the type that Adrian was talking about, that they're already implementing on board the ships, with your retail and other commercial partners to get rid of all single-use plastics as well within the airport?
Yeah, we have already started the discussion, and it's on the way. So yeah, definitely we would like to reduce all the single-use plastics. They have a deadline mid next year, so they are working on it. Some of them has already started using other materials instead of single-use plastics. So definitely the close cooperation and the good partnership is giving us a quite big space to reach these goals. So yeah, we have lots of other initiatives which are visible for the customers, and which are not really, because these are for our partners and within their corporations. So we have already introduced some more water fountains at the airport. We are renewing the waste management process. We have already mentioned the single-use plastic reduction. We have a green airport program in cooperation with other stakeholders and partners around the airport. We would like to use the e-mobility and promote it. So, and besides them, we have some more others, and hopefully most of them will be visible for the customers as well. And next time we can also, we would be able to have and set another submission for the Green Award.
And we look forward to that. Christine and Rachel, from a brand's perspective, Christine, to start with you, your product, the whole brand DNA is really all about sustainability, right down to the packaging and social responsibility as well, with the Aboriginal designs and so on. How do you, important is that for your consumers? And obviously you're communicating it to consumers. What feedback are you getting from consumers on the sustainable values?
Yeah, so I mean, with our Antipodean provenance and that sort of sustainability ethos baked into what we do from day one, it's almost not even a conversation. It's who we are, and so it's, I mean, all of the ingredients are ethically sourced in New Zealand, and the bottles are made in Byron Bay by a zero carbon footprint plastics company. And, so we've been very, very conscious and careful and thoughtful about all of the suppliers that we brought on board to work with us. And it's almost part of the family of who we are. And so when people get the products, read about them, they get very excited about the story that goes with the products. It's not just a skincare line or a bag of products that they're going to use on a flight or on a trip. It's actually got a story that goes along with it that they can get really excited about. And as they go through it and, look at the artwork that's on the wrapping, and understand that there's a song line that goes along with it that they can understand from an Aboriginal artist, that they can read about and go online and buy if they want to. And so as it's a journey. And so that's really been, sort of part of what we've done from the beginning. And it keeps us excited about what we're doing, because we keep looking for other things that we can do along those lines to extend that. So, we've never looked at COVID as a pivot. It's been an extension of what we've done. And so we've just sort of broadened, products and those sorts of things. But we keep looking for other ways that we can further instill those values into what we're doing, and other things that we can do along those lines to make it even more meaningful for our customers.
Right. Thanks, Chris. And finally, Rachel, before I hand back to Charlotte, would you just, you talked a lot about in the Travel Retail Sustainability Forum session and the Travel Retail Marketplace event about the importance at Distell of sustainability, and you gave lots of examples. Do you gauge what consumers are thinking about your sustainable practices, and how important is it for them?
unlike Christine, I think our business is quite well steeped in history because we're massive part of our business is a malts portfolio. So it's unfortunately quite complicated and old. So we're having to kind of go back so that it's and actually look at every aspect of our business and kind of, I wouldn't say rebuild it, but definitely put in different processes, different operational models, new ways of generating energy. So we're kind of having to go back and undo stuff and put it back together that actually makes our business more sustainable. Plastic isn't per se a problem for us. Our thing is our carbon footprint because our water usage. So they would be our two big things that we look at. We do look at packaging, but it's our CO2 footprint. So yeah, we are looking at every single touch point of our business to basically remove carbon. So that's our first, because we know, and what I would touch on carbon, COVID hasn't brought sustainability to the forefront. What's happened is COVID has given people downtime, stuck in their homes, and they have become more knowledgeable. So what we have seen in consumer research pre-COVID to now is that people's understanding of sustainability and what it means and what the definition of greenwashing is has increased exponentially. So that's what COVID has facilitated, is people, they're stuck in their homes, they can't go out. So actually they've kind of found purpose. And one of those purposes is actually understanding the whole sustainability topic in much greater detail. And that is over-indexed with your millennials and Gen X's. They have become, dare I say it, sustainability warriors, and they will become our consumers. So I think that's what COVID has done. And we're trying to respond. We constantly put it into our brand research sustainability now. I would say 3 years ago, it was a question. We touched on it. Now it's a kind of, it's woven into all our research. So we understand to what extent it's important to consumers, but we kind of have to look at our back end business as well as our brands. You can't just do a brand message. It's got to be right the way through the business, right the way through to where you source your grain from, your bottling halls. Everything has got to live up to that brand message, whatever that brand message is. So we think it's grown. We think it's really important. We're actually increasing our research around it because we need to get under the skin of it more. So yeah, I think it's just very different to Christine's things, where we're having to kind of change the way we do things because it wasn't an integral part of our business 10 years ago. So we're having to evolve and adapt, and I think that's the difference for us. But yeah, it's hugely important, and more so now than ever.
Thanks, Rachel. Thank you. Charlotte, I'll hand back to you now to wrap up.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that, Rachel. You almost feel like you're starting, in a more difficult position. Although it's fantastic to have heritage. We're going to discount the fact that history and a long narrative is a fantastic asset to your company. Yes, I totally understand. Sort of you're having to work back through all these things, and it is very complicated. Perhaps that's something we'll continue to talk about, sustainability and the importance of it in future webinars, and obviously during Travel Retail Sustainability Week, which will take place next year, and that we're really excited about that. We'll have lots and lots and lots of time to really dig deep into this topic, or all the broad range of topics that fit into sustainability and social responsibility. I'm going to now draw the webinar to a close and say thank you so much for all of our panelists and of course our fantastic sponsors as well, without which the whole initiative would not be able to happen. So thank you very, very much for that. And also just want to again just promote the fact that from this point forward, getting your message out about your win or being a finalist or just the awards initiative in general is really important if we're going to leverage on this, and really use it to our advantage to grow sales in travel retail. It really is very important to keep that message continually out there, both for everyone's businesses but also for the industry as a whole. As I said, I just wanted to say a final thank you to everybody for their contribution and for recognising the importance of the consumer voice. So thank you from me, Michael.
Thank you, Charlotte. Yeah, again, thanks to all our speakers. We never have the chance to sort of do a debrief straight after the call because everyone's got to go off to different meetings. So we'll be in touch by email, but thank you all for your input. It's been fantastic. Thanks to all of you for putting your questions, for taking part, and for staying with us throughout this webinar. And for those who are interested in the slides from Mindset, we'll be sharing those on trbusiness.com, and we'll be sending you an email with the details for where you can find that. And this recording will also be online. So we look forward to seeing you very soon at future TR Connect webinars. We'll be launching the 2021 program very soon. And finally, as I mentioned right at the beginning, do save the date, 19th to the 23rd of April, where we'll be carrying the conversation further on sustainability, and there's so much to talk about, and we'll be showcasing all the various sustainable initiatives from airports to airlines to cruise companies, and of course brands and sustainable solutions suppliers and service providers from outside the industry. So there'll be a lot to learn and to discover for how we can make travel retail and the whole travel environment more sustainable as a business. Thank you all. Have a great rest of day or evening, and we look forward to seeing you very soon. Stay safe. Bye-bye.